Sitting here is a Gilson made bike. Yeah, it actually has the Gilson tag yet. And this is actually one I am building for a friend of mine. And this is going to be the quickest, dirtiest budget build I have done in quite some time. Actually, probably the dirtiest build since my actual Gilson. So, the Chop Fooey that I've been talking about forever and a day. Now, I'm going to call this one here a low budget mini bike build. Because the frame itself I got for 50 bucks. And, well, I paid $250 for it, but I sold the motor for $200. It was an original lighting coil H block Tecumseh. So, hypothetically, the frame and forks, paid 50 bucks. The other wheels, one is pretty much a generic that you can get at a lot of other farm stores and stuff like that. A lot of them you can actually get from like OMB Warehouse or Go Power Sports for reasonably priced. The stamped steel wheel. I'll show that one a little bit. And the other one is the Zuza, if I remember correctly. One that's very common. I'll show you around real quick. Like this one here is just a standard multi-piece steel wheel, nothing special. And these I have seen on everything from go-karts to pressure washers. Not with the sprocket, obviously, but the 3-bolt, 3-spoke like that. So, in total, on these two wheels alone, I maybe have 20, 30 bucks. And then new bearings. So, tires are old. They have a little bit of dry rot, but they're plenty good enough to rip around the yard and blow up doing burnouts. So, but I'm kind of doing as a true El Cheapo build. You know, just going as simple as possible, as quick as possible, as cheap as possible. But still making a good rideable bike out of it. Because my friend's kid, stepkid technically, whatever, is going to be riding it and I don't want him to get hurt. So we're going to build this proper. It's going to have brakes. It's going to have suspension. It's going to have a nice seat. And in total, I'm going to be in this thing pretty cheap. But that's because I am a mini bike hoarder and kind of thrifty that way. The motor is out of my other Gilson. You know, that's just the old Predator. It's got a stage 1, but I'm pulling all the stage 1 parts out of it. And I'm pulling the air box off of that Tillotson over there. And I'm putting a new carburetor on it, so I'm putting that back to stock. Slapping it in here. It has the centrifugal clutch with a band brake on the clutch. They call it clutch brake. You can get that kit at OMB Warehouse. Very nice kit, actually. Alright, so I have the fork lower mounted in the vise. And it's leveled off to the top of the vise. So it is just repair going this way. Because usually what happens, I hit something, forks get bent. So what I do, I have this piece of 1x1 that fits right over. And that way it's nice and snug on there. And I can kind of set it to the point where I need it to bend. Which is right about there. And then I have this piece of 1 1/4. It slides right on there. Usually. There we go. So that gives me a good handhold there. And that's a rotating vise. So what I actually do is I have another pull here that I put in the vise and I just kind of counteract. And I just slowly bend it straight. So let me put you guys in the tripod and show you what I mean. Alright. So you got the pull here. This is in. This other pull inside of the vise itself, because you're going to be fighting yourself here. Alright. And that may be it. Just going to do a little bit at a time. So, just that little bit was just about all it took. And with the proper leverage, you can really just kind of right back to where it needs to be. At least close enough. And you're going to be pulling it out, holding it up to a straight edge. The only downside is with the shock mount on there, you can't really roll it to get it perfect. But it is a mini bike. None of them are truly perfect. So we'll pop this out of there. Check it out. Go on to the next one. Now just got a little bit more fine tuning to do here. A little bit goes a long way, especially with a 4-foot pry bar. Cheater bar on there. I don't know if that's going to come through or not. That looks pretty darn straight to me. Now here's another one. The handlebars in here are slightly bent. You can kind of see this one's a little bit more forward. And pretty much the trick I do with that, put it in the vise and twist it. It's kind of rudimentary, but it works. Slap it in. Did I say the vise? Did I? Bench. Put it in the bench and twist. Give it a little bit of a twist. Once again, it's one of those deals where using your eye, you can get pretty close. Because the whole thing on these kind of twists up a little bit. Oh, overdid it. You can sit there and do that back and forth for a day and a half if you wanted. In the end, it's just a mini bike. Kid's gonna crash it, and that's damn near perfect. So, little stuff like that. In my usual fashion, I kind of jumped ahead here. I had started to assemble the forks, and you'll notice that these are chrome. These are actually kind of one of the worst set of chrome ones I have. But I had to replace the fork lowers. The one was actually severely worn out. I'll use them on a different project. You know, cut off the bad steel, sleeve them, put in some new. But, so, I had to get this project done anyways. So, either way, had to steal something else from a different bike. Let me grab the other axle here. Yeah, it just took a little bit more effort than I really anticipated for just putting in wheel spacers. Ta-da! Look at that. Beautiful. Alright. Now we're going to work on the back here. Once again, got the rear axle all nice and cleaned up, just like the front. Stay. And what's going to happen is we're going to be putting the sprocket side on the right side. The biggest thing is just going to be figuring out what size spacers we're going to need. And also just getting the darn thing, getting the darn axle to them. For some reason this thing is fighting. There we go. Alright. Just want to slide that over a little bit. Alright guys, I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. Besides the fact that I'm running way behind schedule, I caught a digit in the sprocket. Got my thumb open. Oh boy. Got the jackshaft set up, and I kind of stopped on the rear wheel with the filming because when I was trying to put the axle in, it got jammed up on one of the spacers. So one of my few original axles are now cut in half. So yeah, so I'm down to only a couple spare parts left. But I got the wheel on, I got the chains in, got the jack shaft set up. So we're getting there, but I was supposed to have this done for tomorrow. Well, technically today, Saturday. Alright, this is part 2 of the budget mini bike build. Let's get that out of here. So, what has to get done yet today is, as I ended the video last night, it was very early. We got the jack shaft in, got the chains in. My thumb is doing better. I broke the nail way down inside there because the tooth went right in there, so kind of painful. Anywho, jack shaft's in place. The chains are cut to the right length. I gotta mount the motor, tension it, tension the rear wheel. Then also I still gotta change over all the stuff in the motor as well. So I'm pulling off all the stage 1 parts because I'm reverting this back to pretty much a stock motor. I'm actually keeping my pull start as well. This is kind of my thing. But swapping all these parts back to factory. I have a brand new carburetor in box. I'm gonna steal the air box and the throttle linkage off of this Tillotson right here, since this one's bone stock. But I'm gonna be putting a cam, rod, valve springs, Mikuni, and a bunch of stuff on that later. That'll be a whole different video process. But anyway, so I gotta yank all that stuff off. This is my old Hemi. I've had this thing for 4 years now. But yeah, so these parts are shit, so I had to put this set on here. I do have a rear fender I'm going to use. Also, somewhere laying around here, I do have a front fender. It's just going to be a plastic front fender. I don't even know where I put it. It's somewhere here. But it's one of the plastic styles, just a smaller front, and then one of the metal rears. So, once again, this is just kind of a dirty, quick budget build. The cheaper it is, the better, but as long as it runs and rides and is safe. And so far, this is actually turning out to be one hell of a nice looking bike, you know, minus the contrasting in colors and all that junk. You got chrome front end, you got a blue frame, yellow seat, which was donated by a friend of mine, made by another friend of mine. So, kind of weird how that works out. Mismatched wheels, mismatched tires. But I bet this thing is going to ride fantastic. Excuse me. So, let's get underway. And probably going to start by getting the motor mounted. And then get that chain tension. Get all that Zeused in there and get her going. Alrighty. Absolute mess over here. Slap the motor bolts in. Bolts are still in. Just gotta put the nuts in the bottom. And of course, threads are all dirty. Swap out for a different bolt. The other one, the threads were kind of goofed up. Probably from one of the dozens of times of me bottoming out the other bike. Contrary to belief, I'm kind of a fat person. Alrighty. Even this one is in the way. What this will do is it'll pull that motor forward by the front bolts. We can actually get that chain nice and properly tensioned, and then the motor will never loosen up. Oh, there's good. Brand new chain, it's going to stretch. Let's just give it just a tiny bit more. Perfect. Now you can tighten down that motor and then this thing is ready to go. Alright, so that's the front. The rear is a little bit more tricky. We'll just kind of get it close. Because there's going to be a little bit of slop in there. You don't want it too tight because the swing arm will move and then it'll tighten and loosen the chain. So honestly, we're probably pretty good there, and that's about where I had it set last night. So we're going to cheat on that one though. be about good there. Can't move it. Spins free. Rock and roll. Alright. Now the next thing I guess we're going to do is we're going to start working on that motor. So what I'll do is I'll grab the other Tillotson, bring that over, and we'll get all the stage 1 parts pulled off of here, because that's going to go on the other Tillotson. I have too many motors, but is that really a bad thing? Like I mentioned before, let's do a better camera angle, there we go. Like I mentioned before, I need that. That's not what I was trying to say. I'm actually yanking all this stuff because I'm putting that other motor back to stock. So, there's no reason for me to leave this air cleaner and stuff. Because it's going to be a kid, they want to have something with a little bit of throttle control. Like they don't want it to open all the way. And these still have, to my knowledge, a limit screw, which, yep, that one still does. So, the other one I've modified, all that's been cut out. So this one I'm actually going to remove the actual plate, the air cleaner box, all that. I'm saving the Tillotson carburetor, and have a new inbox Predator carburetor. So we'll put that motor back to factory and get going. So I think a screwdriver is what I need right now. That's when you can see, it has the aftermarket air cleaner, the motor's been jetted, all that stuff. This, I cut off a lot of the extra stuff, just kind of slimmed it down as much as I could. Less chances of it getting hung up while I'm off-roading it or doing something stupid. I just like to have fun. Too much fun. This here is just one of the Amazon replacement carburetors. Nothing spectacular, not super high dollar. I mean, they're cheap motors to begin with, so a cheap carburetor should run just fine. Don't need that. Might need those. Alright. Ta-da! Look at that. Oh, look at that. All fancy schmancy and new and stuff. Like the exact same quality was on there. And the thing is too, I like it if they at least have some kind of name brand on there. You know it's not super high quality, but for Chinesium it's not bad. And guess who didn't hit record? Me. It was me. I forgot to hit record. This is a very low quality production kind of facility here. Yeah, I'm like the CNN of freaking YouTube videos. That should be plenty enough. For now at least. So we got throttlage. Then I'm going to leave the limit screw in there for now. As I said, it's going to be a 10-year-old kid or so riding it for now. Let's turn the fuel on. See if it runs or if it's going to give me one heck of a hard time. Actually, I probably shouldn't do that yet, because I have not mounted the sprockets yet. Let's do that first. Alright, so the chains are adjusted, oiled. I tightened up the sprockets. Let's turn on the gas. See how well this thing does. Hopefully, fires up easy. Alright, well I have to adjust the idle down a little bit. See if we can get in there. See how that does. So I've made a mistake here. When I installed this, I held it out here, hooked the spring in for the control between the handle and the governor. And what that actually did is it twisted and it was binding up and it wouldn't let it idle. So now with that spring set back proper, don't do this in front of company. I just turned the wrong lever. Gosh darn it. There you go. Perfect. Alright, so I got the other blower housing on there, and it's nice, and it's, you know, got the 212 on it, and the goofy little Tilson logo thingy in the background. But there's something I got that's a little bit nicer. There we go. They don't sponsor me yet. What else is left? Well, we gotta hook up the brake, finish putting together the airbox, run all the cables, which what I always seem to do is I kind of run this one kind of like that. That should be fine. Yeah, like that. Yeah, free moving for the most part. So I gotta hook that back up. Geez, I'm just finding all the problems today. There we go. So, let's get this done. There we go.